Far more than we think. Making Sense of Spirituality by Angelo. Chapter 26. The Science of Happiness. Most of us have experienced days when we've been truly happy. It may be the first flushes of romantic love, or perhaps we are joyfully lost in a world of artistic creativity or experience. On other occasions, we may be indulging in a favourite sport or hobby, or simply spending time with friends or family. I'm too polite to mention the other time when we may be truly happy, but I think you know what I mean. We tend to be really happy when we are so focused on a person or activity that everything else melts away. We feel healthy, energized, joyous, and free, and wish life could always be like this. Sooner or later, though, the experience fades and we jolt back into what we know as reality. The obvious question is why we can't stay in this state of bliss all the time. And there's now a popular theory that seems to explain it. The key point in the theory, as I understand it, is that our bodies and minds are totally controlled by our belief systems. Our thoughts, feelings, actions and experiences are all impacted strongly by what we truly believe. So our beliefs directly influence our perceptions and, crucially, the chemistry of our bodies. This concept underpins everything that we've talked about so far in respect of the impact of spirituality on our lives. The mechanics of how it works, as detailed below, seem to make sense. Cells in the human body are continually dying off and being replaced. We think our bodies and brains are permanent fixtures, but actually, pretty much every body part is renewed on a cycle which is estimated to last between 7 and 10 years. It's a bit like the parts of a car gradually being replaced over a long period of time. The car still feels like the same car, but nearly all the parts have been replaced, and some of them have been changed many times. It's weird to think that we are physically not the same person we were 10 years ago. But thinking that something is weird does not mean that it's not true. Stem cells divide every 6 to 8 hours, and the cell production itself responds to different environments to provide what is needed. There are roughly 50 to 75 trillion cells in a human body, and each one is a living entity. We tend to see ourselves as the living being, but the basic unit of life is the individual cell. The cells combine to form all the parts of the human body, and these are all contained within the skin, which is itself comprised of cells. The environment within which the stem cells produce the new cells is controlled by the chemistry of the blood, which is in turn changed and controlled by the brain, and the thoughts and reactions within the brain are strongly influenced by our perceptions. So we have a direct link between perception and cell production within the body. What we believe actually affects what happens to us on a cellular level. This has been tested in the laboratory by observing the behavior of cells in response to different chemical stimuli. When the brain experiences love, it produces chemicals associated with pleasure, and when it experiences fear, it produces stress hormones. Applying these different chemicals to human cells under laboratory conditions produces positive results in the case of the pleasure chemicals and negative results with the fear hormones. Feeling healthy, happy and frisky when we are in love is a direct result of the underlying biology, as is the opposite effect when we are stressed and fearful. The chemicals that are produced by the brain in response to love and fear arise from the conscious and subconscious mind. This can be problematic and confusing if our subconscious mind carries fear-based beliefs. The subconscious mind is said to occupy roughly 90% of our brain power, and it takes care of all the basic bodily processes and automatic reactions, as well as our memories. This 90% figure cannot be proved, but as an estimate it's indicative of the dominance of the subconscious. This part of the mind is heavily influenced by our childhood experiences and holds hard-coded beliefs. These beliefs arise from our family environment and from cultural and religious influences. As children we were constantly observing and learning from our surroundings, and most of these experiences are filed away in our subconscious minds. Although we experience love as babies and as children, it's unfortunately the case that most of us have also experienced a lot of negative messages and fear-based behaviours. Our parents, siblings, extended family and school experiences all tend to teach us more about fear and low self-esteem than they do about love and acceptance of self. Interestingly, this seems to explain why we often turn out like one or both of our parents, even though sometimes we would rather not. It also explains why a lack of ongoing conscious attention can cause us to lapse back into old habits, self-limiting beliefs and self-destructive behaviours. The subconscious mind always operates in the present moment and is constantly alert to external factors. As soon as something happens, we react according to our inbuilt beliefs, and invariably the brain produces stress hormones instead of pleasure chemicals. Sometimes we react on autopilot without even realizing what we are doing, and sometimes we do realize but are still unable to stop ourselves. The subconscious mind is far more powerful than we give it credit for, and if our belief system is based on fear, it will be continually pumping stress hormones into our bloodstream and negatively impacting healthy cell production. Meanwhile, the 10% of our brain that is our conscious mind is so busy holding on to the past or worrying about the future that it too adds to our internal chemical warfare. Even when we are fairly happy, the conscious mind is being outgunned by the subconscious in the ratio of 1 to 9. Oftentimes in the past I've been in situations where I should have been happy to all intents and purposes, but experienced a background anxiety and misery that overshadowed the occasion. Many of us put on a brave face, but underneath it we can be dying inside. It's only when we are in love or ecstatically happy for a given period of time that the conscious mind focuses fully on the present moment and overrides the subconscious. Our present moment experience then pushes all of those negative beliefs to one side, and the world becomes a wonderful place for a while. In these circumstances, the brain produces the chemicals associated with pleasure, such as the neurotransmitter dopamine, and lo and behold, we feel happy and healthy. The subconscious mind will turn us back into victims if we give it half a chance, so the task is to keep the conscious mind focused on the present moment and awash with loving thoughts. If we can remain present in a field of love, regardless of our external circumstances, our bodies will generally be healthy and happy whatever happens. And when we're in this positive, happy space, life becomes enjoyable. But as soon as we get busy again, the wheels quickly come off the happy bus. A busy mind is a distracted conscious mind, and when this happens, the subconscious mind takes over again, and our old reactions and behaviours immediately resurface. This can be confusing and disheartening, because we seemingly go from being happy and relaxed to stressed and miserable in the blink of an eye. This experience can create internal conflict between the conscious and subconscious minds, and we can actually get cross with ourselves when our feelings and behaviours do not live up to our conscious expectations. And being cross with ourselves does not engender feelings of self-love. We will cover more detailed workings of the mind in a later chapter, but for now we have enough of an understanding to see what's going on under the bonnet. My explanation of the underlying science is a gross simplification of what is freely available to review on the internet, but for me it's sufficient to give credibility to the spiritual concepts that we've been covering. Happiness is a state of mind, and this directly impacts our physiology. Feeling happy makes us feel better, and feeling better makes us feel happy. This is what underpins the upward spiral of spiritual growth that I have previously described. We can literally think ourselves happy if we choose to, but the choice is not as easy as we might think, because the good old ego insists on trying to prevent it from happening. The rare moments of pure bliss that we do experience are glimpses of what life holds in store for us if we are able to let go of ego and move from fear to love on a more permanent basis. In order for the science of happiness to work for us, we first need to decide to be happy, and secondly, we have to continually practice it in all aspects of our lives. The good news is that our spiritual self wants us to be happy, and the spiritual laws will draw on the universal abundance of love if we allow them to. This requires us to believe there is a universal reservoir of love that we can tap into. Well, this brings us to the next fascinating piece of science, which is an attempt to explain the previously inexplicable. It's the science of all that is, and it's known as the unified field theory.